Hey, hey, hey. The end is near. On a good day, you can see the end from here. And welcome back to another episode of the Phil Elverum Discography Breakdown Series. I am Jake.
That's a preview for our future Joanna Newsom 30 episode Discog breakdown.
Yeah, it's Blink 155, but Joanna Newsom.
I want to make it happen. I'm
Oh,
me too.
to being, yeah.
Me too. I mean, this is probably the group for it right here.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about East.
No.
Yes.
We're talking about the albums Clear Moon and Ocean Roar by the band Mount Eerie. Maybe you've heard of them. They're from Anacortes, Washington.
Isn't Anacortes that song by Walk the Moon?
I don't know. I have not listened to Walk the Moon except for their like big hits. I mean,
Walk the Moon?
The Clear Moon.
The Clear Moon?
Multi-layered podcast drifting.
That's right.
Oh, they made Shut Up and Dance. I fucking hate that song.
I thought that's not, so the joke I was trying to make there, because it's pronounced like it's not pronounced. Is it pronounced Anna Cortez? That's not how Phil pronounces it. There's that song Anna Sun. Yeah, it is by Walk the Moon. That's kind of a piece of shit. I don't know. That's kind of what I was doing. I feel like I fucked up the energy.
Okay. All right.
You may have heard a third voice, by the way, speaking on this episode.
Yeah,
that is our special guest for the day,
Mr. Andrew Dice Clay.
Hello, I'm AJ, and my blood, it flows harshly.
Hell yeah, it's gonna be a good time. We already mentioned it, sort of, but we're gonna be talking about the albums Clear Moon and Ocean Roar, separate albums, although, you know, kind of inherently tied together in many ways. They're not released together. I think they were released a few months apart, but I think in a lot of ways you can kind of conceptualize them as like two halves of like the same general project, or like a yin and a yang of sorts. I don't know.
I think Phil kind of thinks of them as two separate parts of a whole. Like,
yeah,
like distinct, but the same also.
I was just reading that apparently he released a condensed version of the albums on a single, and the separate sides were just all of the songs on each respective record played at the exact same time.
It's still in his store. I think it's been there for a while.
I can't imagine why people wouldn't be jumping at the opportunity to purchase that.
I've considered it, but I'm me, and the fact that I'm me and I still haven't bought it. Yeah.
Is it Clear Moon and Ocean Roar just playing on top of each other, or it's every individual song from both albums?
I'll read I pulled up the website. I'll read the description. What is this? It is simple. Side A has all the songs from Clear Moon played at the same time on top of each other. Side B is all the songs from Ocean Roar played at the same time on top of each other. No further explanation necessary. That's his sales pitch. The artwork's actually pretty beautiful. Very like soft photos, but like crisp and detailed. It's just like snow that is the same hue and like tone as the sky, so it really like blends in. It's really gorgeous, actually.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
All right, so are we just talking about them chronologically? I feel like I have more to say about Clear Moon.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably start with Clear Moon, and then I feel like I have some things to say that are sort of more like broad strokes points about how both of them like being tied together or whatever, but
yeah.
So Clear Moon was May and Ocean Roar was August. That's like pretty, and I believe they were like announced that he was doing like two conceptually connected albums. So they, in theory, I feel like could have been released at the same time and maybe like packaged in that way, but I don't think they ever were like sold together or released together or placed together.
No, they are. They
been?
are on his website. If you buy the record, you get both. It's
wow.
Same thing with the CD. It is labeled Clear Moon / Ocean Roar.
Oh, awesome. Okay,
So
that's rad.
yeah,
According to Wikipedia, he specifically chose not to make it originally like a double album, just with both of them together, because he thought that it would. The quote is, he felt that it would be too much for listeners to take in, and that such a release would be too similar to his previous studio albums. I don't know if that's referring to like Lost Wisdom and Dawn or something.
interesting.
Um,
I mean, that doesn't work at all.
Well, yeah. So I also feel like just looking at the covers of these, they are very of a piece with Wynn's poem. And not to
Oh yeah,
imply that like it's a trilogy or something, but it's very much like bottom half of the album is some naturalistic scene, and then the title of the album is sprawled out clear and center on the thing itself. Or in I guess in the case of Wynn's poem, it's just Mount Eerie, right? But they look similar and they stand out when you look at everything together.
I would say that it's very easy to categorize these albums with Wynn's poem. I think you could
yeah.
also like, I would go as far as to say that the formula is also sort of present on like even Sana, in that I kind of think of all four of them as like, I guess if I had to put some sort of arbitrary like boundaries on his discography, I think there is some like through lines between Wynn's poem, Clear Moon, Ocean Roar, Sana, in that they're all like um I guess they're all like, I guess a lot of his music is atmospheric. That's not really a novel thing for him, but atmospheric in a way that consists of like a lot more drone sounds. It's like very dense and layered, and it's not like,
I
I don't know.
definitely. Sorry.
No, I was
I
kind of trailing off.
I definitely agree. Like these record, I think these records are progressions of each other in a way. Like, um, I mean, I think Clear Moon and Ocean Roar were generally recorded at the same time, and I for our purposes here, I'm talking about them as like the same project in a way, but like, these, although they sound kind of different, it feels like an evolution of like the sort of ethos on Wynn's poem, and then Sauna is sort of like I feel like a little more like kind of a step back from this in a way. Like, these songs are all super kind of insular and small in their focus, but they feel really huge.
Yeah.
Which Sana would do, like, but different.
Yeah.
um,
The Pitchfork reviews for both of these albums really harp on like the scene setting of them being recorded in this like abandoned church that Phil had been working on, or working in at least,
yeah,
and like seem to imply that, you can hear the sound of that in the albums, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but it definitely feels like these records are both more themed about the outdoors than it has anything to do with the nature that they were recorded in. Um, so I requested to be on this episode in particular because Clear Moon's probably my favorite Mount Eerie record, in as much as I listen to it the most, I would say. I don't like necessarily think it's maybe his crowning achievement or anything like that, but it's the one that if I'm gonna listen to Mount Eerie, I tend to like prioritize Clear Moon because I think it's really sharp and has both some of his best experimental sections and some of his like catchiest or most compelling songwriting to me.
I definitely like. This isn't my favorite record, but I listen to it a lot, and also like I think a lot of the songs on this album are some of his best. Period. Um,
Yeah.
though it doesn't like Sauna is almost the opposite for me. Like, I that's one of my favorite albums of his, but I wouldn't single out any of the songs in particular. But like here, it's kind of like Lone Bell is insane, House Shape is insane. Like, they, I don't know, each of these songs feel like a huge moment, I guess.
I think it opens really well, like Through the Trees Part 2, which is a great song name. is another one of my favorite songs on the album. I think the aforementioned House Shape, I think, is like very clearly the standout on here. And I think it was actually the first single released. But Through the Trees is a very good mood setter.
Yes.
And Phil's voice is so like upfront on that one. And it's
Yeah.
something you don't really realize until you digest a lot of interviews with him. But he does have a very boyish voice, and it's very soft spoken, and it's almost like when you listen to his music and his singing, you think that he's doing some kind of vocal affect to like sound younger or sound like he's has a squeakier voice. But then you listen to, I don't know, say him on the Blink 155 podcast, and you realize that he's like actually doing more of a formal presentation when he's singing, and that his speaking voice is like impossibly somehow even more soft spoken and whisper like.
And
um
I think he uses that to great effect in a lot of his music all throughout his discography, where the music itself in the atmosphere that his like you said sort of boyish voice is kind of buried in these huge sounding songs and atmospheres, like he himself is like a small force in the wake of like a huge
Yeah.
like storm or something like that.
the opening lines on the album are misunderstood and delusioned. I go on describing this place and the way it feels to live and die, which the way he's sing speaking them is so plainly stated that, again, I think it makes like the perfect first impression of that's exactly what this record's going to be. And the waviness of the instrumental under him, like Through the Trees part 2 is a very slow track that basically just sort of like the rhythm swings like a pendulum, and it's that hitting doom doom sound like over and over
Yeah.
again. And it's one of the longer ones on the album. This, The Place I Live, and Clear Moon are all 6 or 7 minutes long, I believe. And it
Yeah.
really is just like methodically paced. And I know that they're not one of his named influences, but this pair of records makes sense why I like them so much, are pretty heavily inspired by Phil's metalhead phase, and like specifically like drone atmospheric black metal. So Burzum is the one that he's named, but I get big Sun O vibes from this track as well.
Okay. I haven't listened to enough of them to really track that comparison, but
I
I
feel
mean,
Yeah.
like it's the influence has kind of come full circle, because you listen to some of the earlier Sun records, which are really abrasive and more in line with like Merzbow and Burzum, that are just harsh noise experiments. And then Phil takes that stuff and makes it a little more melodic on an album like this. And the two most recent Sun albums, which were released last year, a few months apart as a conceptual duo, Life Metal and Pyro something or other, but they incorporate a lot of pyroclasts, incorporate a lot of different instrumentation that's almost more in line with a Mount Eerie record, and some similar vocal deliveries. So I almost have to wonder, like I said, if that is like a full circle thing where now Phil's being influenced by Sun has in turn influenced them.
right. Yeah. Through the Trees Part 2, though, to circle, I mean, we haven't really circled away from it, but genuinely like a top 5 Phil Elverum song for me, I would say. I think
I
it's
Yeah.
really love it. Yeah.
so extremely good on every level. Love
Even
it.
even before I knew this album super well, that's been like a favorite. Like it just made such a strong impression on me.
Yeah, it's just very serene, very beautiful, kind of a standout sonically in that way compared to a lot of the other tracks on this album. This one's definitely the most like ethereal or something. Like I love the little subtle like pulsing rhythm it has. I think AJ you mentioned that. Um also I'm a big fan of the like I don't know. I feel like the lyrics on Through the Trees Part 2 is almost like a mission statement for like Mount Eerie as a whole. Like I feel like so much of what he talks about just in all his music, not even just on this album or on this song, is laid out really plainly on here. He talks a lot about like nature and how he's not exactly like singing about nature, but just kind of referring to it because he's just talking about his life, and so nature shows up a lot because nature is a big part of where he lives. But then he also sings about other stuff that's part of his life too. Like, you know, he's always talking about like garbage and factories and like refinery smoke and that type of stuff. So it's like
For
the, you know,
sure.
like mountains and websites or whatever.
The
So
the
Yeah.
pair of titles here, Clear Moon and Ocean Roar, I think like both are pretty well paired sonically to what these albums are, but those are just like two of the most Mount Eerie ass phrases ever. It's like that's
yeah,
exactly how they could very easily be lyrics in any number of his songs because it's basically just what this whole thing
totally.
is doing. And
Yeah.
both of them, not to like already pass, you know, such a broad judgment for both of them, but they're both doing that whole like capturing the state of looking out into the world and like grappling with all of its meaningfulness and how it's impossible to capture and all of that existential fear just like throughout the entire runtime of both of them. I think they are conceptually really strong and really well linked, even though none of it is like as explicit as like the song is called Through the Trees Part 2, and I've been searching and I could not find Through the Trees Part 1 anywhere. I don't know when Phil.
It's on Wynn's poem.
It's on Wynn's poem. There it is. Well, um what I was saying basically is just that like there's nothing on Ocean Roar is like a sequel or a callback to Clear Moon in the way that if they had been released as a double album, it's sort of like a part two or a continuation of anything earlier.
There are a couple like conceptual ideas that get reprised on Ocean Roar, but like definitely not something super direct, I guess.
Yeah, I can for sure see the line in the sand. Like I like why the songs were separated, and there are, I think, kind of inherent differences between both of them where I can see like, oh yeah, this is more like a Clear Moon type of thing versus this is more of an Ocean Roar type of thing.
Ocean
Um,
Roar is sorry, I'm getting a little ahead here, but Ocean Roar is so close to being a shoegaze album.
I was going to say that Ocean Roar almost feels like it could be a one song kind of piece or like much shorter in some sort of like, you know, symphony or anything like that. Whereas Clear Moon is much more clearly delineated as an album with like very
Yeah.
strict songs that start and stop, and there are some instrumental passages and a few other interludes, but Ocean Roar just feels much more esoteric in its form, where a lot of it is harsh noise or ambiance, and like the real climax of the album doesn't occur until like the last second to last song, which is then followed by another instrumental. That's like the first time that you're really getting a thesis statement for Ocean Roar, and it comes probably 30 minutes into the album.
Yeah.
there's a really good quote from Phil about he's describing Ocean Roar as a counterpoint to the soft synth walls and landscape pondering of Clear Moon, presenting the opposite of that album's clear glints of awareness, a total wall of blue-gray oceanic fog, a half-remembered dream of a trip through dense old growth hills to the gnarly winter ocean in the middle of the night decades ago.
That's exactly what he does, man. That's
Yep.
it. That's Phil.
Yeah, pretty much nailed it.
Like his I got into this a little bit because I spent a lot of time this week working on the um album of the year write up for the microphones in 2020, but like going to Phil as a source to unpack or try to better understand any of the things he's put out is not very helpful at all, because the roundabout way in which he describes things in some cases just makes them harder to discern.
I've had a this is unrelated. I've had a like really dumb galaxy brain moment, which is that I want to call Clear Moon folk gaze. Um but like do you know what I mean? Like he turns these like acoustic guitar passages into these like big muddy swirly moments, almost like how like, you know, My Bloody Valentine works, or even like some of the songs on Ocean Roar work, except it's just like, you know, acoustic guitars and drums somehow creating this like highly textured thing.
If you're just someone who's coming off of like A Crow Looked at Me, or maybe even The Glow Part 2, and you're sort of like, right, this is like a very sort of somber, like folk act for the most part. You're just like hit in the face with some pretty strict experimentation and totally different sound palette on both of these albums that's much like harsher and much more playful than some of those things that you might have been expecting. But that is to say that I think this is more in line with if you had to try and like nail down the definition of Phil's sound or Mount Eerie sound. It leans overall much more towards this stuff than some of the like plainer things that perhaps break through.
Yeah.
I honestly think folk gaze is almost the perfect way to describe it, because I think it takes a lot of the like ethos of shoegaze being just like kind of a wash of instruments blending together, like distortion, the vocals kind of being like subordinate to the like overall like overriding like atmosphere that the song is creating. All those things I think are, you know, in the center of the Phil Elverum slash shoegaze Venn diagram, if you were to make one. And so I think, yeah, his like common use of the acoustic guitar on top of that, folk gaze makes total sense to my brain.
No,
I'll,
yeah,
I'll
like
take it.
also the instrumentals on this album are some of the most intricate and textured of his career, which is just, you know, I don't know, feels like shoegaze is a very textural genre. I don't know. I definitely think there's something to it.
Yeah, I mean, like a song like The Place Lives or The Place I Live, like kind of both of them honestly are like that. They're just kind of very hypnotic and like just dense and easy to just kind of get lost in.
House Shape especially,
House Shape
actually.
too, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I just found out that Phil toured with Earth off of these records, who are like, I think they're probably a more palatable Sun O, who I was talking about earlier, but that makes complete and total sense that he would have. And they released like one of their most acclaimed albums, "The Bees Made Honey in the Lion's Skull," right around this time as well.
Huh.
I
Interesting.
think that rules. I would have loved to have gone to one of those shows.
I didn't know they ever
Yeah.
toured together actually. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um so should we talk about Lone Bell just cuz I kind of
Yeah,
want
we
to talk about
should. That
Lone
fucking
Bell.
bass line.
Baseline whips ass. I don't know. I mean, okay, look. I if I say this anymore on this goddamn podcast, you can fire me, but I'm going to say it. Twin Peaks vibes. I'm sorry, just like it reminds
No,
me of like the zigzag floors, red curtains. It's and that I don't know. I just
I
get
mean
the same energy.
it just is factual that Phil is influenced by Twin Peaks. Like, not only influenced, but that's like a really big influence on a lot of his work. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, and Twin Peaks actually is directly referenced on Ocean Roar, so it's
Mm.
not like a super far
and
stretch,
on
but
Wynn's poem.
and on Wynn's poem, yeah. So
It sounds a lot like Lone Bell, at least sounds a lot like the Audrey's Dance
yes,
instrumental from the soundtrack, which is just kind of like one of the more
it's exactly what it is.
slow and atmospheric tracks, and Phil's basically just kind of like mumble rapping over it. This song rules, and it's very threatening, and I love the way that it builds into House Shape as well.
It's super restless. Like the ascending bass line never returns anywhere. It just starts over, and you can never rest.
And if I'm
It
remembering
doesn't leave you
correctly,
alone.
yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, he like cracks into the falsetto right around halfway through, and it's just like, yeah, as you said, it keeps like spiraling upwards, and you're like, what? When does this song? Like, where's the
It's
song go?
if you have either of you heard that like it's like an auditory illusion where it sounds like the pitch of some note is like constantly rising even though it never actually is rising. Um there's like a name for that, I don't know. But yeah, that is what it reminds me of. It's like impossible to feel like comfortable in that.
Hmm,
Yeah.
I feel you.
God, that song rules. I never like really picked up on Lone Bell that much before like the past handful of weeks, I think. Like, I don't know. I unlocked Lone Bell somehow. But it fucking rules.
This whole I'd say like the middle stretch of Clear Moon is like sort of unstoppable. Like obviously Through the Trees is like an all-time great Phil Elverum song, but Lone Bell into House Shape into Over Dark Water is sort of a nasty little stretch of songs right there.
Yeah,
I
these
would. You can go ahead, AJ.
I was going to say very quickly that this pair of albums, and then even taken as a pair, but are very easy to like blend together into one experience or listen if you aren't closely paying attention to the sound or the track list. And that more so on Clear Moon, because like I said, I feel like Ocean Roar is very like feels like one larger piece as a whole. But yeah, until you're like sitting down and being like, right, okay, this 4 minutes and 15 seconds now is Lone Bell, and that will transition into House Shape. It's very easy to imagine just like picking up the start and end points of those songs and kind of like moving them around pretty arbitrarily.
I think like I don't know, like Clear Moon kind of comes to this like slow stop. Like it doesn't have this like serious like big ending at all, and then Ocean Roar doesn't really start. It just sort of happens. um or I don't know, it doesn't have a beginning. It just sort of starts, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I don't know. In Pale Lights, you just kind of get dropped into this song. Like it doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
I think I know what you're saying. Like there's not a really, I mean, I feel like in a lot of albums there's almost a sort of common trajectory of like, okay, it's you're supposed to start with this type of thing and then it eventually kind of like builds up to some sort of like crescendo and like the second to last track or something. um I definitely don't feel like yeah, I don't think that these albums really are trying to follow in any sort of pattern like that or anything like that, like Synthesizer
Yeah,
just like ending the album on just like an instrumental pleasant sounding like quiet synth song.
it's real. It doesn't do anything, but it is so like shockingly beautiful. And
It's very
that's
pleasant
another one
sounding.
that I didn't really like pick up on until like this week. I don't know. I feel like this is just gonna get looked at like me saying that Tree Fingers is one of my like absolute like top 10 favorite Radiohead songs, but this is probably up there for Mount Eerie for me too. It is just stunningly gorgeous.
Do you mean Lone Bell or do you mean Synthesizer?
I mean Synthesizer. Lone Bell
That's a
obviously great.
that's a wonderful take. That's a wonderful take. Well, my number one, probably with a bullet, Mount Eerie song ever is House Shape, which just crashes out of the end of Lone Bell, and again, it's a like a twofer of just incredibly threatening auras with the
Yeah,
instrumentals. Like House Shape is just chugging, and it feels like driving in a dark car in the middle of the night, just like only illuminated by these threatening headlights, you know?
it's like
Yeah.
very like disharmonious or something. Like there's something inside of it that is just 1 degree, one shade off of like normal, and it's just really unsettling and kind of in like a fucked up hypnotic type of way.
Yeah. It's very hypnotic.
The lyrics, when you read them by themselves, feel like they could be like creepy pasta or some sort of
Yeah.
avant-garde horror poetry. And yeah, just the like way his delivery is so fast, the way the instrumental is so dark, and then it warps into something with the separate way of seeing lines, the way he's like really emphasizing that stuff. Yeah, this song just has such a like lived in darkness, and the atmosphere of it totally changes from the sort of like mystique of the earlier tracks. This like is a very clear moment on the album, and the clarity that you get is incredibly threatening.
I also just love the imagery of like a house silhouette. I think it's so cool. Just like I don't know, like being outside at night and like the moon is slightly behind your house or something, so it just like a big kind of black silhouette looming this way it sort of looms over you.
Yeah.
Cool vibes, I
Yeah,
guess.
I feel like across both Clear Moon and Ocean Roar, he's really going back to what uh, he was doing lyrically on the Mount Eerie album, the Microphones release, where it was like very conceptual, and he was like narrating about his like life experience and then the
Yeah.
universe at large from such like an omniscient perspective. And the way that House Shape ends with like, yeah, noticing a black looming house shape and at last I crack my eyes open feels like there is some story structure to this album overall, but it's incredibly inscrutable. And like I know that he has like laid out the narrative of that Mount Eerie record, but this one, yeah, all of this stuff just feels so ambient.
Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. It's kind of like that approach, but like without the self mythology.
Yeah. You look at the lyrics and you're sort of like, wait a minute, like this stuff feels like it's all connected and where are we in the story? But I don't think again there is any way to like say so either way.
And then the way that um I don't know, I think I like Over Dark Water being the next track after it as well. I think that's another
Oh
highlight.
yeah, Over Dark Water is it's
Very ominous, like this dark brooding.
it comes on really strong.
It's yeah, it's just like super heavy and you know, Genevieve, she's the one singing on it. Her vocals I think fit the song very well. Lots of so there's a lot of like water and ocean imagery, and that makes me think that Over Dark Water is maybe the sort of connecting kind of like corpus callosum between these two albums or something, because it sounds a lot like how Ocean Roar sounds as an album generally, like almost probably more than any other Clear Moon track. So I,
Yeah,
I think that this is sort of like the, you know, if Clear Moon and Ocean Roar are like a yin yang album thing, I feel like this is like the small drop of Ocean Roar that's inside Clear Moon.
Oh, for sure. That's a perfect way to put it.
yeah.
Also, this is literally an Earth song. Like so much so. Obviously, the Black Gaze influences are heavy on this track.
And the way where it just explodes at the end, where it's like, I feel like like loud punishing sound to me evokes like huge crashing waves, and I like have to imagine that's on purpose.
This one has the drums really go like nutso at the end of this track too, right? I'm trying to
Yeah,
think if that's
yeah,
not in, because then the next one's like an instrumental bit. Um, then that's really more like again just sort of like the spaciness. But yeah, this one builds to just that cacophonous din.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
And then go ahead.
no, I was just gonna add that it's just it's such a heavy song. I really don't. It really it hits you like a wall. It like just vocally like it is so mournful and heavy and I don't know it really strikes me every single time, like makes me feel bad.
I was going to jump to the title track unless anyone had something to say about the
No,
something
let's do it.
instrumental. So the again the delivery on Clear Moon the song is so drawn out and so slow, like it's the longest song on the album, and for the album or for the songs with actual lyrics I feel like they're probably like the shortest when written out in totality. But yeah, again, he's tapping back into that just very spacious and sort of ominous aura where like a lot of the lines are just one word and he's saying them sort of slowly, or just the phrasing of like lost in a fog, remembered the clear moon, or however that stretch goes, imagined clear moon in a black sky. All of this
Yeah.
stuff and the way he's saying it again is like there's a palpable darkness, even though this is ostensibly, if taken as a yin and yang album, I think there's no argument that this is meant to be the brighter half of that distillation. Like
Yeah.
Yes.
there is no respite to be found in a lot of these songs on Clear Moon.
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
The phrase, sorry, the phrase "imagined clear moon in the black sky" is one of those phrases that's just like seared into my brain, like
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
That is
What were your?
that's some Bloodborne shit.
And it's strangely enough, like I wouldn't not really say this album is like quote unquote catchy, but that line in particular has sort of
Oh
been
yeah,
weirdly stuck in my head, like kind of throughout the
all
last
the
week.
time.
Yeah, just that one line, it kind of just like repeats on. And I mean, this song is another one that is very like hypnotic and sort of like repetitive in a way. So I guess, and it's like 7 minutes long. So
Which is
um,
really like, no, I'm totally with you. Don't get me wrong, but it's really weird because like I feel like normally catchiness is kind of like associated with melody, and but the way he's like talk singing that phrase, like
yeah, that's
there's
true.
no like there isn't much of a melody, um, but it's so like it just stays with you, it just lingers.
Yeah, I love the auto tune he uses in this song. Little auto
Oh
tune
yeah.
flourish, kind of like
Oh
giving
yeah.
halfway through.
Thank you so much for reminding me about that. So I've never listened to Pre-Human Ideas before, but I was poking around a lot this week, like I said, trying to get through some of the things that I hadn't listened to before. And yeah, I really had no idea that Phil was fucking around with autotune that much.
Yeah, we haven't talked about pre-human ideas yet on the pod. I actually think we're gonna do that in the next episode, but I have listened to it before, and it's pretty bonkers. Like, I think it's a lot of it is very self-aware about what it is as a project, but it is nonetheless very funny to hear like just this like sequencer and tracker like auto-tuned version of these super kind of serious Mount Eerie songs.
I have not listened yet, but I'm excited to. It seems like a fun detour.
Yeah, it's entertaining to say the
Which,
least.
like speaking of, I kind of tallied all the like microphones and Mount Eerie projects I have listened to, and good fucking lord, there is a lot. Um, we have covered like more than 20 projects at this point. It's a lot of material. Sorry,
When
not.
all is said and done, I can't say that this will overall be the best Discog breakdown that we do, but it will certainly be the longest, and they can't take that from us.
It will be hard to. Yeah, we could we could do Bob Dylan, but we shouldn't.
Yeah,
Because he's never released a good album or what? That's just, I don't believe that. I just thought that would be funny to say.
just trying to throw some gasoline on the fire.
I was a while ago. I was talking to Jero about me, like he kind of wanted to do a Bob Dylan Discog breakdown, and I like wanted to talk about Bob Dylan on a pod, but just we would never make that happen. Like,
You could call it Pod Dylan.
yeah, no.
Hey,
I think right now the working title is the Bob Dylan Power Hour. Um, but holy shit! Okay, I went onto his Wikipedia page, and just like the list of mainline albums is the largest I have ever seen.
If you were to do a just Discog breakdown for like what's his live series called or whatever, like the Bob Dylan like archive or whatever, even that would be like a year-long commitment, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, he has released 39 studio albums.
This year, the bootleg series is what I was thinking of.
39 studio albums. And that like that is not including live albums and like
EPs and like
EPs and shit, which we'd have to cover in the spirit of the series, which is just like, all right, 26 EPs, 12 live albums, 20 compilation albums, 12 video albums. What? 7 soundtracks, 15 bootleg series records. Just wow. Which Jero's been fucking listening to like all of the bootlegs. This man is unhinged.
Yeah, you'd be locked into that series pretty much for life, I think, at that point.
Yeah. No, if Bob Dylan never dies, I would never finish the series.
That's true.
He releases faster than I can podcast. All right. Do we want to move on to Ocean Roar or
Yawning Sky, I think, is
Oh,
really
yeah.
good. It, like, again, at this point in the album, it kind of ostensibly being the last track, like, there's nothing necessarily surprising about it, but it's doing all of the things that we've mentioned on all of the other songs really well. It feels, again, like has the urgency of House Shape, has that the aura of Lone Bell, and then perhaps some of the like inherent creepiness of Clear Moon. And I think it's a really strong way for the album to close out before Synthesizer like essentially plays you off.
I've always liked the phrase "yawning sky" too. It's just a very kind of potent image to me. Like I know
Yeah.
exactly what he wants me to imagine by saying that. I'm pretty sure
Very
he's used.
very poetic pairing of words.
Yeah, I feel like he's used similar like verbiage before to refer to the sky in that way, but I still like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I might still have a couple other things to say about Clear Moon, like in regards to Ocean Roar, but I think we can kind of more formally move on to that album.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ocean Roar released I think about 5 months. Yeah, like you said, May to August. I don't know how many months that is, like 3 or 4 months or something like that after Clear Moon, and they definitely exist in the same universe, kind of like we've already been saying. I would say Ocean Roar is overall a lot louder, heavier. I guess you could say it's more punishing, like a darker sister album to Clear Moon or something. Like they have similar characteristics, but they also are distinct in a lot of ways.
I don't know how you guys are feeling about it, but I definitely feel like this is the less significant of the two.
I think it has really, really great moments, and it makes for a super compelling listen when you're in it. But yeah, outside of geez, I'm blanking. Sorry. Outside of I Walked Home Beholding, which again, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like is like the very clear centerpiece of perhaps both of these albums. A lot of it feels not in a dismissive way, but feels samey. Like I said, sort of feels like one big performance piece. I listened to both of these over the weekend while I was riding my bike, and Ocean Roar was just super immersive and very transportative in a way that like it's rare to see in music. And then when I Walked Home Beholding hits, I feel like the entire album itself builds to that crescendo. Perhaps you could even lump Clear Moon in there if you were to consume them as one double album. But when that shit hits, I think, it's one of the most transcendent moments in anything I've heard from Phil.
Yeah, that's fair. I kind of struggled with this record a little bit. I think I don't know. So this album is maybe more instrumental than song. Like
I agree. That's kind of what I like about it. Yeah, and I mean, I'm more in the pocket for this album inherently because I really fuck with black metal. I really like instrumental post rock and atmospheric black gaze. Like that's my shit for the most part. So I'm coming to this much more like keyed into what he's doing with it. I also think it's fucking crazy that he has like that this even exists in his discography. It's very cool that he was able to channel something that's very clearly so influential to him in terms of like the metal genre and just fucking like pump out a record that still absolutely sounds like him and isn't him doing some facsimile of the things that he likes, but is very like clearly way out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think right from the beginning, like with Pale Lights, there's a very you can tell there's like a very distinct feeling he's going for. Very loud and cacophonous, and the classic Mount Eerie, like sparse vocals, but when there are vocals, there's kind of like mixed, like super low, and I don't know, this song in particular, but also the whole album. And I think I already mentioned this, but it just evokes the feeling in me of being a small, like, human person in the middle of some tumultuous ocean, like hurricane thunderstorm, like
Yeah.
stranded on some small rock in the water, while like giant waves are crashing around you. And I think it does a good job of painting that picture for me overall.
Ocean Roar is literally the perfect name for this record. That's basically, exactly what the sound is. And like I said earlier, I'm in the pocket for the black metal instrumentation of this album. I'm also super just a simp for any ocean iconography or, thematically dealing with deep, dark water. That is, again, my shit. So, again, I think that's why I connect with the vibe. That's why I vibe so heavy with Ocean Roar, even though a lot of it is probably like from a completist's perspective, sort of like lower tier Mount Eerie.
Let me say that, like, I don't know, like, I guess my problem, or what I struggled with this record is kind of it's like its momentum, which, like, it kind of, I don't know, it loses me somewhere. I want more like concrete, like the title track, or I Walked Home Beholding. I don't know. I just wanted a little more of like, I guess, a little more form. And I know formlessness is almost the point here. And I will also say that, like, I think Clear Moon is a a slow burn, in a lot of ways, and maybe this will be for me too. And also, for the record, like, I like all of the songs individually, but like together as an album experience, it kind of drags on me a little bit.
I will say there is one head scratch moment for me on Ocean Roar is on the title track Ocean Roar, which I think is a really great song overall. Like, I think it's very, very beautiful. And it's got like really good, like, Allison Foster. I don't think we've mentioned her yet. She does a lot of the backing vocals on both Clear Moon and Ocean Roar, and also Sana. But very good. But there's a part at like the end of Ocean Roar where there's like like a bunch of children going yay, and then there's like applause. And every time I get to that part, it kind of takes me out of it a little. I'm like,
Every
what's going
time
on?
I hear it, it makes me think about 15 Step by Radiohead. I
Yeah.
Somehow I never made that connection, but I can totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes me there every single time. It is a little funny. It's weird that this, like, like, auditory cliche has entered the realm of Mount Eerie, but I don't know, maybe it was less of a thing when it came out. This album did come out 8 years ago now.
That's
Which,
true. I mean, okay, so this album did come after In Rainbow. So I was trying to think, maybe
yeah.
they were directly related somehow, but probably not. Also, this is not related to what we were just saying, but Ocean Roar is the song with the explicit Twin Peaks reference. One of the lyrics, there's a little like reprise after the main line of the song that goes, "One chance out between two worlds, walk with me," which is the same as, like, through the darkness of future past, the
Mm.
magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds, fire walk with me. So I
God,
think
you
they
you
took it.
cannot you cannot say that phrase in my presence. It is deeply upsetting to me. Dude, the fucking I kind of hate the Twin Peaks movie.
Damn.
The I Yeah, I know. I know. It hurt me too much.
Yeah, I
It
mean
was it
it's
was like it is easily one of the most deeply upsetting things I have ever watched. And I intend to like never watch it again.
Ocean Roar sounds a lot like parts of The Return. Like I'm thinking of in the first episode where um, Cooper's trapped in that like black box in the downtown, and there's just the whirring, like it's almost a mechanical kind of engine grinding noise, but it's just that harsh glitching. And like Ocean Roar has that exact sonic darkness to it.
I'm gonna bitch about this in every episode until I can manifest it into some alternate reality. But like, goddamn, why didn't Phil Elverum perform "Ocean Roar" during the end of one of the episodes of The Return?
I feel like if Lynch,
Yeah.
yeah, if Lynch ever does a season 4, it could happen. It should happen.
I was gonna say, how many episodes in a row can I say that exact like sentence
I no,
verbatim?
you're right to ask. I honestly I don't think Ocean Roar would have been the track for it,
No,
but
probably not.
like so many Mount Eerie songs would have fit so like snug in that show aesthetically. Um yeah.
Actually, there's an acoustic performance of the Ocean Roar title track on YouTube. I can't remember which channel uploaded it, but very very good and very different from the studio version. If anybody out there
I'll
is
bet.
interested in that type of thing, you should check that out.
The this song Ocean Roar is one of my favorites from this set of albums. I am a sucker for them shoegazy sounds.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like I'm fine with this as it is, but it definitely like there is definitely part of me that wishes Phil had leaned into it further and had just like straight up made like a Mount Eerie shoegaze album. Um, but that's okay.
I would I said this off the record before we started, but I would say of the mainline like studio full length like actual Mount Eerie LPs, Ocean Roars would probably be my least favorite, but that's just sort of like splitting hairs, I guess, because like there's still some very very like excellent moments throughout the album. Um, we mentioned it already briefly, but "I Walked Home Beholding" is probably one of my favorite songs overall between both albums combined. Like absolutely beautiful. Those synths, very wintry, and in fact, it may or may not be. I don't know if you picked up on this, Alex or AJ. The synths on "I Walked Home Beholding" and the song itself remind me like almost exactly of the synth sounds that are used on "Through the Trees" Part 1 from Wynn's poem. I don't know.
Hmm.
I
If anyone
didn't.
else picked up on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to listen to it again. I think my
There's
girlfriend said that this is a Christmas song.
I
yes,
get
it's
that vibe.
very
It's
wintry.
got huge not to go straight back to Twin Peaks, but right, like you could have credited Angelo Baldiamenti on the instrumental here and I like would have 100% bought it.
Yeah, there's a part on this song where because it's like very much just this soft ethereal synth sound that he's softly singing over, but then every once in a while there's this little like guitar lick that comes in that's like bum bum, and the "Through the Trees" Part 1 does the exact same thing to the point where every time I'm listening to this song I almost expect him to like dip into the melody of that song. Like my brain is just conditioned for that. And with his music, I have really no idea if that's intentional or not because it could completely be on purpose, or it could just be my brain making stuff up. But either way, extremely beautiful song. This is like the Clear Moon inside Ocean Roar, I would say. To
Definitely.
reuse that same analogy I used
I
earlier.
feel that.
Yeah, just very beautiful song. I don't know what else to say besides that. Very very good.
I really like Ocean Roar as a sort of like instrumental epilogue and companion to Clear Moon, which is an album that I hold in a really high esteem. And I feel
I
like,
feel that.
yeah, it's like it's these albums are truly sort of like day mode, night mode in a way. And I know that we spent a
Yeah.
lot of the Clear Moon discussion talking about how ominous and threatening parts of that record were. So it's funny to imagine Phil just going like cranking that darkness meter until it, goes beyond what was even known to be possible. But he sure manages to do that.
Um, this is slightly off topic. I can't remember if this is, I wrote this quote down. I can't remember if it's from Genius or YouTube or whatever, but someone, I think it's a YouTube comment for Ancient Times. Someone said, "Why does Ancient Times sound like Smash Mouth?" This is like not true. The song does not sound like Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
It's not that way at all. So I don't know why that comment just made me laugh.
Yeah, that's strange. That's interesting.
It's like a sound collage of like Phil Singh talking over some like really faint keys, and there's like ambient like outside city noise in the background, and someone's like, "Yeah,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
like Smash Mouth."
When you said Ancient Times, for some reason I thought of the first instrumental, which was like maybe a little bit less obviously a joke than calling Ancient Times Smash Mouth
Oh yeah,
soundy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Um,
Speaking of that instrumental, here's a question. I noticed that on Ocean Roar we have two songs called instrumental, whereas on Clear Moon there's two songs called something in parentheses. And both something and instrumental have been sort of like used as like placeholder titles for instrumental tracks, like all throughout the Mount Eerie discography, like dating all the way back to the Glow Part 2, basically. So do you think there's any sort of distinction there? Like the something songs refer to this thing, whereas the instrumental songs refer to this thing, or are they just sort of like?
I think the instrumental titled tracks are like a little more complete as songs, whereas some things are generally like um like a weird repeating sound, or
Yeah,
like half finished, or
they're like a field
which is
recording or something.
I'm bringing us way back, but the very first, or I think the very first something on It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water, that's like basically just a song and there are vocals and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Um so this isn't like 100% true, but like since that moment it feels like that's how they've been used to me. Or at least that's how I've interpreted them.
That makes sense. Like instrumentals are more likely to like have instruments or something. Because I
Yeah.
feel like the instrumentals on this album are like there's guitars on them, there's drums on them,
It would
maybe
be
some sort of like piano.
it would be such a Phil thing to have a thematic consistency across his discography, be songs that were simply titled something, and try spending time and effort to try and identify the through lines to them. And that's almost why I believe that you're onto something here. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's no way of knowing, because it could absolutely be that, and it could absolutely be like me tricking myself into like seeing a pattern there, but you can never know with this man's music, because it is truly like a interconnected spider web of like references and motifs and shit like that. So
It's a compost pile.
yes, that's right, that's right.
Always going back to that quote.
It's a great quote. By the way, I'm wondering what your thoughts on this is. Ocean Roar received an 8.1 from Pitchfork.com.
Huh.
I just thought like I don't
That's
really
that's the
read
emo
Pitchfork that
score.
much.
No, wait. Not that's not the emo score.
Yeah,
Emo score
that's
is
an emo
like
score. The Pitchfork,
okay.
I was going through like all the Pitchfork reviews for Phil's stuff, and I think they're a little bit like all over the place. Like there were a few pans that I was kind of surprised to see. Ocean Roar is not one of them. Like Clear Moon had a pretty enthusiastic best new music, and then yeah, I feel like if anything, the Ocean Roar score is inflated a little bit. I really like the album, but yeah, they were just like, look, it's basically part two of Clear Moon, and it's fantastic. I feel like
I think they panned No
they
Flashlight.
panned No Flashlight, yeah.
Well, I was thinking like if he released Ocean Roar now, it would get like a 4, I think.
They would be significantly less into it. Yes.
I don't know why. Just on pitchfork.com.
Yeah, for
Not
sure.
like the quality changes in any way, like having been released at this time versus that time, but like just based on how I perceive that particular publication to be in the year of our Lord 2020, I just don't think they would particularly like enjoy Ocean Roar all that much.
Yes,
But I do.
I agree. Yeah.
But we do here.
Damn, they only gave Lost Wisdom Part 2 a 7.4.
Yeah.
And I am calling you out, pitchfork.com. Fuck you. That's a
Don't look at the oh, just kidding. I thought they panned Sana for some reason and I was about to go off, but I guess they didn't, so never mind.
yeah.
Redact this.
No, they gave it the secret best score, which is 8.1, no best new music.
Same as Ocean Roar, so
yes.
there you
Which
have it.
is wrong. It's wrong to say Sauna and Ocean Roar are equivalent. But obviously not not to read too much into Pitchfork review scores. Yeah. Oh, they gave Wynn's Poem a rare 8.2, no best new music.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, deserved.
What this is to change the course of the combo once again,
do.
But what we sometimes a lot of times after we finished recording the episode, I wish that we had spent time talking about the artwork, like the cover art. What do you think of the Clear Moon Ocean Roar album artwork? Because I personally really like the Clear Moon picture. I think it's very nice. It reminds me. It seems like a photo taken on the surface of some like Pluto or something.
Oh yeah, I really like the way Clear Moon. The font is so thin and it's such a cloudy photo, and then Ocean Roar just seems like angrier and like chalk scrawled. They both the covers look pretty much exactly like the album sound for the most part. Clear Moon is pretty peaceful with this sort of threatening aura of these black spires, and Ocean Roar is this just sprawling and crashing darkness.
Yeah, I agree. Like these aren't my favorite covers. I mean, you weren't saying that. These aren't my favorite covers in his discography, but they definitely feel like extremely fitting to the albums they represent, especially like Ocean Roar for me, which has just a really stunning cover, which frustratingly it has like a low quality upload on Apple Music. I don't know what's up with that, but it's like fuzzy. But it's a gorgeous cover.
It is, yeah. They're just kind of like the pillars of water. It's like you're like zoomed up really close onto a really tall tsunami or something. Which is also how the album sounds, so it makes sense. There's also a different like the like there's an alternate, I don't know if it's like the vinyl or something, but there's a alternate Ocean Roar cover that I've seen where the waves are more washed out, like a white color than a blue color. I'm gonna see if I can try to find it. I hope that's right. Yeah, I posted it in the Clear Moon chat.
All right.
That alternate cover that I've seen
that almost
before.
seems like both of them together, you know?
Yeah, it kind of does.
It's got
like the colors of Clear. It's like the color palette of Clear Moon, but it's like the Ocean Roar picture.
It's cool. I almost want to listen to the fucking both of them played at the same time experiment just to see what that's like.
I kind of do too. I definitely like. I'm more intrigued in that than I ever have been.
Yeah, I think I really like these, and I guess like y'all are much more like experienced. I think Wynn's Poem is an obvious one, but like if these are the Mount Eerie records that I'm like the most into, what do you think sonically is like the next, or feels most of a piece with these two?
I would definitely say, like you said, Wynn's Poem and Sana, which chronologically bookend
I would
these
say
albums.
Sana more than Wynn's Poem.
Yes, Sana's always been a tough nut for me to crack, so I know you guys haven't got there yet, right? But I'll try and listen along for that one.
I would recommend it. Sana is I don't want to say it. Sana's maybe my favorite Mount Eerie album. Like my favorite album released
You're
under the
not
moniker of
alone.
Mount Eerie.
I know that you're not alone in saying that.
Yeah.
I think it's very excellent. Like I think it's kind of the um it is different than these albums, but in a lot of ways, I think like the sort of area he was trying to operate in this era of his career is sort of like perfected in some ways on Sana, which is maybe not fair because I think they are trying to do different things, but
Yeah, I do think they are like very different in a way, and like you know, these albums feel so like quintessential Mount Eerie, but also they really don't sound that much like anything else he's done, and I think that's kind of true of all of his records. Really, like even you look at like Dawn, Lost Wisdom, Lost Wisdom Part 2, and A Crow Looked at Me, and those are all like stripped back folk albums. They fucking sound totally different from each other. They sound and feel so different from each other.
you kind of filled it out for me because I think what I'll say is that Sana to me feels like a perfect synthesis of that mixed with this, like the acoustic, folkier elements of his music getting incorporated into these like more dense, lush, layered, atmospheric side of his music. I think those two sides kind of like meld together in a lot of ways on Sana. Um, and so maybe that's why it's one of my favorites. But
You AJ, you could maybe hook into Mount Eerie Parts 6 and 7
oh
actually.
yeah, true.
I actually think that maybe that would be the closest, cuz it's got this sort of like textural approach,
Oh
and
yeah.
a similar approach to the lyrics, and like also the it's got nutty percussion too. I don't know. I think you should give that one a shot for sure.
I had not even I was not even familiar with that one, so the question in and of itself was worth asking.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That it's kind of like an EP though. Yeah, I guess it's an EP.
I think it's considered an EP.
Yeah.
It's like technically like a continuation of the Mount Eerie album Under the Microphones, even though I guess it's so like, you can buy
It's
into that.
pretty different. Yeah, you could buy into it, but it's also like not really like
Yeah.
that much.
I would say it's closer to this than it is to that album, honestly.
Yeah.
Also, you should listen to Black Wooden Ceiling Opening. I'll recommend that one all day long.
That's a hashtag Jake take.
Okay.
It's a Jake take. It's imagine man, I'm trying to think of the dumbest way to put this. It's like the closest he's got to pop punk.
Hell
I'll
yeah.
just say
Yeah.
I feel
I'll
like
just keep it at that.
the albums are so kind of hard to like get through and figure out what's going on in each of them that I had never even like looked into the EPs that much. So that's rad.
Yeah, he's got some crazy EPs. That'd be a good place to dive into for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, all right. Does anybody have
I think I'm
anything else
good.
to add?
I think we can put a wrap on this.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, that's Clear Moon / Ocean Roar. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I think our next episode is supposed to be Pre-Human Ideas and something else. I don't remember
Pre-human
off the top of my head.
ideas and live in Bloomington.
Live in Bloomington. Yeah, we have officially charted out the remainder of the series. Whereas before
Yes.
it was just sort of like, when we have 50 more albums to talk about, it's almost like what's the point of even trying to like get these on any sort of schedule? But I feel like it's narrowed down enough that we have been able to like chart out the waters going forward.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it'll be a fun time.
All right. Thanks for listening. Oh shit. We forgot. Okay, so first of all, you know this by now, but we got a Patreon. Feel free. I don't know. Feel free is a weird way to say it. If you can, and it is within
You
your
must
desire to support
fucking
us,
throw us cash. Throw us your
yeah,
dollars.
funnel us that moolah, baby. Anyway, shouts out to our patrons, especially Derek, Maze Farms, and Bex.
Hell yeah. Thank you for your
Big
support.
agree.
Hello, this is Lo-Fi Jake coming to you from 1:44 a.m., 5 hours after this episode was recorded, because we may or may not have trailed off into some tangent and then ended the call without actually ending the podcast. So, goodbye. Thank you for listening. Thanks again to our patrons who we just mentioned. And we will see you next week.